Okay, here's video number 1 in reference to some questions asked by Silent096, a fellow YouTuber. You asked me some questions about my sorry, this has a lot of axial parts on it, about my VeNom creeper kit that I got from CKRC. It is the $114 kit. It's the roller only. It comes with no electronics and no servo. It comes with wheels, tires, everything else you need, shocks, steering. It comes ready to go. All you need to do is put your electronics in it. But first video I'm going to go over is the suspension setup and a few other little mods, cheap, free, and home-built mods that I've done. Second video will be electronics and what I had to get to put on the truck to get it running. Out of the box, stock, the truck is great, but you get a lot of torque twist when you're going up hills. It wants to twist this way and basically three-wheel up hills, and it wants to flip over backwards really easy. So I'm running the hot body Rover tires, white compound, which is super soft, not super soft, but soft. I've got 4 ounces of weight in each front tire, nothing in the back. You'd probably want to weight the backs as well, but I just haven't done it. So that's a good upgrade. Stock tires are no good. They're alright. You can run them if you want to save some money, but I highly recommend CKRC has those for really cheap. I think they're about $13 a pair. So for $28 you can be running nice tires. Suspension setup, and in the back the rear steer lockout. Stock. The skid plate's coming off, by the way. This is where these 2 holes is where these rear steer lockouts originally mounted, and these are originally down here. They run down and bolt up, and they're really low and they catch on stuff and rocks and whatnot. So what I did was remove the skid plate. That's on there just for reference for now, basically to show you what it is for and how it's not needed. The front one is removed, you will see soon. I moved these up here. Go to the axial section on CKRC, the AX10 parts, not the kits but the parts. Go through the parts list, find the axial AX10 plastic parts tree upgrade kit, and it comes with like 3 parts trees, I think, 2 or 3, and it comes with all these ball ends and body mounts and all sorts of plastic stuff that will help you with these mods, and it's $14, which is a good deal. So I grabbed that. I had a bunch of extra spacers. You might need to grab some spacers or whatever, but made these fit until the wheels are straight. Just space them out, get it, work with it until your rear alignment is straight, and mount these up here. It gets them way up out of the way of the rocks and everything. That helps a lot with hang-ups. The suspension, in the rear here, I've got it spaced out about 1/8 of an inch more than stock, so therefore bringing the shocks back a little bit more than stock. I'm running bigger shocks. You can run the stock ones, but run 45 weight oil or 50 weight oil in them. Take the internal springs out of the rear shocks, and then what these springs are off of a Sportworks buggy. They're a front medium dual rate spring off the Sportworks buggy. Got those at the local hobby shop. Best place to go for springs or something like that. So run that, get some better shocks if you can, but you can run the stock ones. I've got bigger cups up here to accept the shock cup, so the spring cup, so the spring will stay seated. So there's the rear. The front you want a little softer. I've got soft rate springs These are medium dual rates. These are just single rate springs, but they're a little softer than the backs, and I run 35 weight instead of 45. So 45 weight in the rear, 35 weight in the front, and these are the stock shocks mounted upside down with very little preload and a softer spring. And up front, I have no spacing between the shaft and where it mounts up to the battery plate. This brings these shocks essentially back more, angles them in. So the back ones are angled up more, and the front ones are angled in more. This makes it so it's softer up front and stiffer in the rear. So when you're approaching something, your front wants to articulate first before the rear. I run the internal springs still in the front, keep them in the front. Also, I put some Bic pen springs out of a Bic clicker pens, get two of the same springs and put them over the shaft. You can't see them with this camera, but they're over the shaft inside, just right there. And then I got the internal springs as well, the stock ones. So run that setup, and no springs or internal springs or anything like that on the back. So you want a little softer in the front than the rear, and it keeps the torque twist way down. This thing virtually has no torque twist when I'm running up hills or just driving. It really works great. As far as the steering setup goes, here's Axial AX10 aluminum high steer knuckles, also off CKRC. They're about 28 bucks. Again, you need the Axial parts tree kit, which is 14 bucks again. Gotta find that kit, because for all these angled eyelets you have to have for this high steer setup. You take the stock, this is the stock drag link, works fine. Just put a spacer in there because these ball cups are shorter in length. Aluminum servo horn, take the stock tie rod and cut it to length to where, measure to where your wheels are straight or wherever you want them, and then cut it off to where it's going to be long enough, and then drill a hole and tap it. Go to the hardware store, buy a 3mm tap and die set. It'll cost you maybe $5, and you can tap a screw hole in the center there, and then you'll have yourself a tie rod, because the stock one's longer, but you can use the stock one and just cut it like I said. So shocks are upside down the rear as well. No real reason for that, just less leakage. Works the same either way. So these are Axial high steer knuckles. You can find those somewhere on CKRC. They're in there. I forget where, but that's about it for the mods. So far, the front skid plate is removed. You can see how much higher the tie rod is. Stock that comes out here, and the tie rod runs right along here. So it's way up higher. It's really nice for clearance and approach angles on rocks and whatnot. Keeps you from hitting stuff. So yeah, there's that. Everything else is stock. Just did a few little mods to get stuff out of the way, and this is a cheap upgrade, 28 bucks. And then the shocks, you know, you're looking at another 20 bucks just for springs and oil. So there's about 40 bucks right there. Okay, on to the next video. I'll go over electronics and what I did to get the truck running. Thanks for watching. Hope it helps.